Alright, thank you for tuning into this video. My name is JJ Frederick. I am your host here at the Aslan Abstractions channel. And the name of today's presentation is going to be the Marketplace of Indignation. That's the profitability of outrage. And let's begin. So recently I watched a video by a YouTuber by the name of Peter Coffin. The name of his video was What is Call-Out Culture and Is It Bad? Peter Coffin is an on-again, off-again internet personality that I have heard of, but I've never spent any time consuming his content. He, as far as I can tell, is a leftist social critic who is currently working on a series of commentary videos entitled Many Peters. Anyway, I recently happened upon one of his recent uploads called What is Call-Out Culture and Is It Bad? Now this video that I'm making is a response to and also inspired by his video more than anything. I found his delivery to be somewhat boring. His commentary is kind of mired in this postmodernist word salad nonsense, and while I'm familiar enough with that language to navigate what he's saying, to know what his general point is, it's not really pleasing to listen to or to watch because of this. I mean, I'll link his video in the description, of course, so that you can see it for yourself. But I don't recommend his content. I just happened to upon a video of his that offered an interesting perspective, and I kind of wanted to respond to it and then add my own 2 cents to it. One thing really annoying: way too many air quotes. He does this constantly. Basically, his video is What is Call-Out Culture and Is It Bad? Makes the following points, and I'll describe those in kind of the synopsis of his video. Now, here you see the definition that he gives for call-out culture. Per his uncited source, I mean, this could be his own definition that he created, call-out culture is the practical, or rather the practice, in social justice circles of publicly criticizing people for violating accepted behavioral standards. So what Coffin asserts is that there's a capitalist framework running underneath call-out culture. Whenever an individual calls out another for saying something that's problematic, they gain social capital from which they can eventually profit. In this general sense, he's correct. And then I'll kind of explain what I mean here in the coming slides. However, at this point is where I'll stop with any further analysis and summarization of his video, because it is just kind of this rambling monologue, as his videos tend to be, and they're just not my cup of tea. I don't know. Social capital. Now, in the background here, you see the political economist Francis Fukuyama, and he defined social capital as thus. Social capital is an instantiated informal norm that promotes cooperation between two or more individuals. The norms that constitute social capital can range from a norm of reciprocity between two friends all the way up to complex and elaborately articulated doctrines like Christianity or Confucianism. You see right there at the bottom of the screen my source. You can find this paper that Fukuyama wrote in PDF form from researchgate.net. So what does this mean? Well, social capital is the set of unwritten rules that govern human interactions. Social capital are the assets that an individual or a group of individuals can be used to leverage against other individuals and therefore influence their behavior. People earn social capital by appealing to individuals or groups in ways that are agreeable and thereby initiating a sort of exchange. Now, if I endorse your ideas or present ideas that you find to be agreeable, in exchange you give me some credibility or respect. In terms of social justice, this is referred to by critics as virtue signaling. Social justice warriors are very ironically capitalist. This is where I must give Peter Coffin his due credit. He articulated this point in his video, which I will link in the description of this one. Now, it took hearing the perspective of Marxists for me to see the industry that the social justice movement is, the creation of and further exchange of social capital through call-out culture and virtue signaling. Now, the phenomenon has resulted not only in the generation of social capital, with all the social benefits being made, but there's also real dollars being made by pushing these progressive, politically correct viewpoints. So, why the progressive social justice movement's ire towards capitalism? I mean, you see here we have Anita Sarkeesian, who's profited not only in terms of social capital, but in real dollars, has made real monetary gain by peddling her ideology. Now, capitalist turned Donald Trump, the Donald, or everyone's favorite president, has used his own social capital to make over $1 billion through real estate and ascend to the office as the President of the United States. So the gaining of social capital, does it have a real effect economically? So how is the social justice movement getting rich? Each time SJWs challenge the status quo, which is continually narrowed down further and further into a highly specific outgroup, they gain social capital through their sensationalist rhetoric. Now, they've chosen the easy target of white heterosexual men to attack and extract social capital from. Because in Western societies, white men represent the most average of all people. Thereby, anyone can identify them as a villain because, most people have had at least one bad experience with heterosexual white man. Now, the SJWs also have history on their side, as the vast majority of power players, be it in the government or the private sector, have been heterosexual white men. It's the classic, sticking it to the man trope. Now, of course, it is valid to say that it is unfair to the wide variety of people who live within Western society that heterosexual white men are thought of as the default. Even though, on average, the demographic makeup of the West has largely been white, and given the pretty consistent gender distribution, 50% of that majority around thereabouts has been white, or men, rather. So, I mean, really, it's a historical precedent that kind of sets white men up to be the default as far as Western civilization is concerned. Now, however, the West is a culture that is historically defined by European heritage. I mean, that historical precedent is set, and we can only move forward, really, from that. I'm not really defending by, the idea of preserving that specific heritage. I don't think the future of the West has to be for white men. It can be inclusive of anyone that's part of Western civilization, holds Western values, whatever those might be, and upholds Western cultural norms, whatever those might be. Now, the tradition of Western civilization is being defined by the actions of heterosexual white men. That whole norm, that status quo, is on its way out anyway. Things change over time, and inevitably the dominance of the white cishet patriarchy, if you want to call it some nonsense like that. I mean, it's dying of old age, frankly. Despite this, call-out culture seems to seek its own destruction. Not its own destruction, but the destruction of the West, kind of a kicking an old man while he's down, so to speak. The point of doing this is profit. Call-out culture is indeed an industry. Personalities like Francesca Ramsey make corporations like Viacom, the owners of her employee MTV, a lot of money. Sensationalist rhetoric from the likes of her garner attention, which translates directly into profits. It also has other more nefarious consequences, such as deplatforming otherwise harmless speakers like Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, causing riots or incidents of harassment of people in public. Various SJW content creators compete with each other to gain likes, views, donations, and thus the appearance of the left eating itself. With such a hyper-competitive marketplace of outrage, it is ironic that SJWs rail against capitalism while benefiting from it. But, you know, they're simply appealing to their left-leaning base who has always had an eat-the-rich attitude. So, in conclusion, SJWs and call-out culture aren't going anywhere, unfortunately. The market is just too mature, and the infrastructure that it depends upon, you know, social media and the like, is too highly developed. Eventually, SJWs will settle into their market niche and mostly be forgotten about by the average person. However, this can only be guaranteed to happen if there's an opposing competing industry, which there is in the intellectual dark web, to borrow the scare quotes there from Peter Coffin. This intellectual dark web, or anti-SJW industry, as YouTuber Douglas Lane calls it, has its own issues that I'll cover in another video. And until then, I would like to thank you for watching, and if you have any comments that you'd like to add on this presentation, please add those down below. Thank you.
Did you enjoy my video? If you did, you should go down below to the links, click on my Patreon, and give me money. That'd be fantastic. But you don't have to. But what you could do is subscribe, you could like, you could turn on notifications, you could do all those things, and then you get to see moi every time I make a new video. Thanks. I love you.